everybody, welcome back to Eggs the Podcast, but before we get started, I want to talk to you about our new sponsor, Taylor Style. If you've listened to this show for a while, you probably know I'm pretty intentional about where I put my attention. I like to keep certain parts of life simple so that I can focus on the work, the conversations, and the things that actually matter to me. Clothing was always one of those areas where I didn't want it taking up a lot of headspace, but I still need to show up every now and then looking put together when it matters. And that's where Taylor Style has genuinely been a game changer for me. I'm a subscriber right now, and every few weeks I get a box with hand-picked outfits chosen by a real stylist, refined by their AI, and the crazy part is they actually nail it most of the time. Stuff I would never go buy, but I end up wearing nonstop just because it works. What I've liked most is how little effort it requires on my end. I don't have to shop, I don't have to guess what goes together, and I don't have to deal with laundry when I'm done. I just wear the clothes, send them back, and the next box shows up when it's time. Simple. So whether you're heading into a new year wanting to feel a little more dialed in, or you just want an easier way to look sharp without changing who you are, Taylor makes that upgrade pretty effortless. If you want to try it, you can get 25% off your first month with code EGGS at taylor.style/membership. That's TAELOR.style/membership. Use code EGGS to take 25% off your first month. I use it. It works for me. It's been a great addition to my routine. I think you'll love it. Now, back to the show. Hey, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Eggs. As we wrap up another incredible year, we're excited to bring you the 2025 Eggies, a celebration of the conversations, insights, wild ideas, and breakthrough moments that stood out on the show over the past 12 months. This episode features some of our favorite clips from guests who've pushed boundaries, shared meaningful lessons, and helped us all think a little bigger. And while we can only highlight a handful of moments here, make no mistake, this year has been packed with amazing episodes, and we're grateful for every single one of them. A huge thank you to our listeners, of course, for your continued support, your messages, your reviews, and showing up for us week after week. And of course, our deepest thanks to our guests. We obviously couldn't do this without your willingness to share your expertise, your stories, and your time. Think of today's show as the trailer or just a taste. If a clip grabs your attention, we hope you go back and dive into the full episode and enjoy the conversation in its entirety. So without further ado, please sit back and enjoy the 2025 Eggies, a look back at some of the best and brightest moments from this year on Eggs. I think there's a lot of well-intentioned information about mindset and belief and getting yourself right. And to be clear, like, I believe all these things are true. But I wondered if you wouldn't talk a little bit about just sort of the difference between faith and belief. And what I mean is that it seems to me that faith, for people, especially if they have maybe a religious tradition or something like that, faith could be something that you don't even think about, right? It's just implicitly true. It's built in. There's no two ways about it. But to frame it sort of in the realm of the millions within and the type of actions and activities that you talk about in your own life, setting your mind to something or believing that something is possible is really kind of the key to everything else. Like, nothing else can happen without belief.
100%.
And so I wondered if you'd talk a little bit about belief just as being something active, something that we're proactively getting involved with versus, just having a faith that things will be there for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to belief, we have to understand something. Just because we agree on something doesn't mean that I believe it. It means I have an intellectual understanding of it. I might believe in your belief. I might agree with your belief, but it doesn't mean that I actually believe it. Because when I was studying, I was also studying religions. Now, I was raised Catholic, but I was not all that impressed with the education that I got from the Catholic religion. But I would read in the Bible and it would say, if you could believe, basically, you could do anything. Like, it's mentioned so many times. And I thought, well, I've always believed something different, but that's not what's shown up in my life. What is the difference in the word? So I then started looking at books that were written, in the day, in the 90s or whatever. And the way they used belief was more of an agreeable thing. Like, I believe this. You could tell me something that I have no experience with, and I could go, I believe that. Yeah, I believe that's true. Right? But that's not really a belief. A belief is when energetically you've got it in your thinking, your emotions, and in your physical actions. They're all in integrity with each other. And you're not fighting it every day, right? So I might say, I'm going to be successful. I have to get up and I have to make sales calls in the morning. And I get up and I'm thinking, oh man, I really don't want to make sales calls today. I just don't feel like it. If you've got a real belief, you're going to get up and you're going to do it. You're not going to have that battle in your mind. And that belief doesn't waver no matter how difficult it gets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I think it maybe leads me into kind of where I wanted to go with this, which is sort of, I guess, the stickiness component, right? So, I mean, I think it's easy to have belief. Like you say, it's easy to agree in something. And I'll just use my own anecdote. When I read Think and Grow Rich, I stuck a piece of paper on my wall with my mantra, that Napoleon told me I had to put together, that this was my income goal and this was my business goal. And I tried to, and I came into the office every morning and I read my little piece of paper and, tried to commit that thing. Well, needless to say, I'm still not a multimillionaire. I'm still not doing the things that I should have been. All the things on that paper did not work out. And so, but, to your point about having sort of this internal alignment, I think for me, I had written down this stuff and therefore I believed it.
Yeah.
But I think that there was still this component that maybe I was leaning too into the woo-woo and not enough into the, just because you're saying this out loud doesn't mean that you're actually doing anything.
Well, I don't think that it's a person's leaning too into the woo-woo. I don't think they understand how the woo-woo works. So the idea is that if you believe something, if you set an intention, the universe is going to respond to that all the time. Your then participation is to recognize that response and then take action on it immediately. And it goes back and forth like that to the achievement of whatever goal that you want. The faith part is interesting because there's a really great book on faith. It's called God Works Through Faith by Robert Russell. If you don't have it, you should get it and read it. I really think you'd like it. But they use Christian principles in that book to point out, number one, God's already created everything. It's already done. It's already here. That's a promise to God, to human beings. Number two, you have to act with that belief, with faith, that whatever it is you're going to do is going to show up. I'll give you, for instance, with money, because I work with people on this all the time. All the money is already here. Right? But most people say, I can't do things because I can't afford them. So they have the process reversed. The idea is when you make the decision, the money will show up. There's no reason for extra money if you're not making the decision. But most people won't do that. They're like, well, that's irresponsible. How am I, I can't just spend money like that. If you're willing to follow through on it, you absolutely can, because the money will always be there. The problem is where a person stops in their own belief system. If they stop short, it's Napoleon Hill's 3 feet from gold. If they stop short, they're so close, but they don't know it because they don't have the experience, and then they don't get it. That was the huge awareness, the aha that I had when I tripled my income. I could not see something that was around me for 2 years because my attitude was so bad. And when I changed my attitude and I started running it like a machine every day, it changed my perception. And when my perception changed, I saw the opportunity that was right there with me every week. And I said yes to it, and my income tripled. And I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me.
I wonder if we couldn't talk briefly about what is authority, how do we develop it, and that aspect of our business, if we truly want to maybe refine and grow beyond just improving our sales process, how could we actually start to develop authority?
Yeah, I mean, the way I define the term is an authority. Like, it's not enough to be an expert. Like, probably everyone listening to this is an expert at the thing that they do. You've been doing it for 5 or 10 years, whether it's design or architecture or software development. You've probably been doing it for a while, and you might not call yourself an expert, but you are. You're like way better at it than like your clients. Maybe you're way better at it than most of your peers, but that's not an authority. An authority is a recognized expert. An authority is the kind of person that would get called in to be an expert witness at a trial, where for some reason, people in a market, some group of people who are not your peers, or it could be your peers, but I like it better when it's not your peers. I like it better when it's your buyers. They recognize you as an expert at this thing. And usually the way that works, especially for buyers, when they recognize you as an authority, it's based on some results. So like you might be like the best person in the world at like, well, what did I say before? Corinthian pottery. Like you might know everything about Corinthian pottery, but it doesn't deliver results for anyone. Like no one cares. So who maybe cares? This is going to be a tough one. So who would care? maybe you are an expert for an auction house that deals in antiquities, and they have a huge liability if they accidentally auction off something that turned out to be fake. And you have been doing this for, I don't know, the Louvre or something that has the biggest collection of Corinthian pottery. Totally in fantasy land here. I'm making this up, but let's just say someone has a lot of money at stake and you have saved them, right? So like this, it's not just that you wrote the book on it and you know more about it than anybody else and all of your peers wish they were you because you're so smart about Corinthian pottery. It's that people who can give you money recognize that by giving you money, they save or make money. So if the auction house is like, new auction house has this new piece that's come in, they don't know if it's real or fake. And they know that you've been working with a competing auction house for 10 years and you've discovered like 15 fakes. Now, all of a sudden, if they're going to auction this thing off for $1 million, now all of a sudden it's worth a lot of money for them to call you and only you to verify the authenticity of it, because then that will increase the amount of money they get at auction because it's been verified by this person who everyone recognizes as the authority on Corinthian pottery. So it doesn't matter. This guy or gal might know that there's a bigger expert than they are, but not everyone trusts them. No one knows them. This first person is famous at delivering a result. It's not just a question of I don't know, some sort of litmus test of how much knowledge you have about Corinthian pottery. So that was probably a terrible example, but or maybe it's a great example because it's such an abstract thing.
Well, I was going to say, you evoked the Louvre, and they got robbed this morning from his.
Yeah, that's what I thought of it. Yeah.
So I guess they need a security guy, so anybody out there that's in the security might be a good time to anchor high with the Louvre.
Yeah, whoever did the security for Louvre is now infamous, not famous.
Well, I was just thinking of like a mechanic, like you buy a new car,
Mm-hmm.
that hobby that's a mechanic that's been there for a while. That can, you can look at this detailed car from the lot, like they've spit shined it and polished it up, and it looks great to you. You take it to the mechanic, and he looks underneath, and he sees an oil leak out of your gearbox or something like that. He's going to see the stuff that you're not, and that's why you always have that second opinion. That's why you have the person of authority, the person that knows what they're talking about. Look at it and be professional, and whether it's a logo or whether it's a speaker, it's all a matter of who you know and how much they know and how much accountability and reliability that you can put on that person.
Yeah, and how many people know that. So it's like the size of the audience that knows that.
Yeah, that's the nice point, right? It's one thing if somebody comes to you to build a website for them or whatever, and you're the web design expert or you're the web design guy I know. But if you're the authority, if you're like Mr. Website or you're Mr. whatever your genre of website is, then, you can fetch higher prices. You're going to be able to do more with that engagement than you might if you're not. So I think that's where the power of authority can really start to come in, is that you can start to elevate your brand or your business or whatever it is. There's this notion where everybody says that you should chase your passion, chase your dreams, the things that you're doing, you should pursue, or the interests that you have, you should pursue. But I think what ends up happening to a lot of people is we end up pursuing other people's hopes and dreams because we see it on Instagram or we see it wherever, on TV, movies, whatever. And so we actually end up chasing down other people's fantasy. And then I think that that's in large part why a lot of people, when they achieve success or whatever, they actually aren't that happy. And it's because they spent their whole life chasing somebody else's thing. They weren't actually being authentic.
Yeah, that's the most dangerous thing, isn't it? When you think about it, it's one of the biggest wastes of a life. And, I think more and more as people are aware of it, that is happening and is going to happen less and less. I think that was something that, how many people, went to high school, went to college, studied maybe what their parents wanted them to study or what was expected of them to study. And they had a 25-year career where outwardly, it looked right, and they just weren't happy. They were desperately unhappy. And, what a horrible way to live. And then there's also the school of thought and that I know where they're coming from, yet I don't agree with it, that says, well, forget about your passion. Just do the work and your passion will develop. Yeah, but that's really difficult. If you look at any really sustainably successful person, and when I say success, yeah, financially, but also in the other ways, whether it's mentally, emotionally, relationally, and all the other ways that success can be measured, including financial, which is also very important. If you look at those people who are sustainably successful, most of them did something they were passionate about.
Yeah.
They did something that really brought them joy. And it didn't have to be curing cancer. It didn't have to be something that we look at as, it could be anything that person felt as though they were meant to do. And they took joy in doing, and they went to work, and it was bigger than themselves. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think, it's a lot easier to be successful doing something that you're passionate about.
Yeah. Well, and I think maybe what we're tiptoeing around here, or to sort of connect the dots, is the authenticity is acting in a manner congruent with your values, but your passion is also congruent with your values. It's doing a thing that, it's not about, or the reason we have passion about things, I guess, is because it's totally in line with your values, right? Whatever it is you're pursuing is the thing that you care about intrinsically. It's not about, whatever you see outwardly.
I agree with you. And when people ask me about this, and they talk about doing what they love and following their passion, I also let them know, there's a third part to it. So it's doing what you love, your passion, what you're good at. And a lot of times the way we're created, what we love is typically what we're good at, what we have an inclination to. But even if we're not naturally gifted at what we're passionate about, if we're passionate about it, we can usually learn it. Okay. So we take the first two, doing what you love and what you're good at. And then you have to also find a marketplace for it. People who will pay you for expressing your passion, right? Whether it's selling this or that, creating this or that, producing this or that, whatever it happens to be. Now that marketplace might already exist, and you're simply filling a need within that marketplace, or it might be something you need to create. I don't know. And it might be something that you don't know if you can create and will be created, but you're so passionate about what you're doing and so committed to it that those are the people who often change things. And it doesn't always work out that way. What I'm saying is that it's not a matter of just having the thought or I really just, it's also being practical and understanding that it's very reasonable. It's very rational to follow your passion, develop the skills, and understand that there needs to be a marketplace for you to provide that value to.
I wonder too if you could talk a little bit just about having to execute at higher levels like this. So you mentioned needing to 5x, 10x, 50x your company. We haven't had a lot of people on with startups that are targeting that kind of growth like you're talking about. So I think it might be interesting to talk about what it's like in a rapidly scaling company like this from an execution standpoint.
I think the key difference is that you are expect to grow really fast. Like we grow 10 times in the last year and a half, and we are expect to grow another 3x by early next year. And our goal is to make 200 million revenue in 5 years. And so in order to achieve this means multiple things. Number one means you need capital. So either you need to quickly get profitable, but also you need external capital. Most of the time, it's not like one round of funding is enough, which means that, first of all, you have to raise the first round, and that's already hard enough. And then you have to continue to show your tractions. And then you have to raise again, and maybe again and again for multiple times. Are you someone who are willing and asking for investor, which you might have to talk to 200 people and 198 will say no to you? Like, are you someone who actually enjoying doing so? Or if not enjoying, at least you are capable and wanting to do so. And you might have to repeat the same thing 10 times per day and then get rejected. And then you might have to also make really quick hiring, but also figure out if it's right fit, and then have to probably make sure you make adjustment for the company. You're constantly are trying to see how you can grow really fast, and versus organically, you need to have advertising in, but then at the same time, you want to optimizing really fast, and you need a lot of partner. We already have 300 brands. We're constantly looking for new partner. We are expanding into shoes, accessories. So I think it's a very different from a lifestyle business. Some people want to work on the business for 20 years, but it can be lifestyle. They do have a little bit work-life balance, and they also can make 100% decision for the company. They don't have to report to the investors, and they don't have to do a lot of things on preparing for those board meetings, etc. So I think it's just very different. And we started without knowing, and we are, and I'm still enjoying it, but I'm sure it's not for everybody.
So what is your end goal with Taylor? Are you trying to just generate a business that you have the passive income coming later on down the life, or are you building it to sell?
I think it's a little bit less about what I want. It's now a little bit more about what kind of company you should be after VC back. Because for VC back company, which we are also pretty open to, but for VC back company, the expectation is you exit within 5 to 7 years, and you get 10x to 50x return for them. So that's kind of the expectation. Of course, not every startup meet the expectation, and that's why VC back, and sometimes they are looking for like 10 company. As long as 2 company made it, they are okay, because the other 8 may not make it. But the moment they invest is because they believe you have a chance to be that kind of company. And the 5 to 7 years asset, it tend to be either you get bought, which is mostly common in the US, you get bought by others company, like in our case, maybe for Amazon, who also have logistic capability, Uber, who are share economy, or company who owns inventory, like Gaps, or clothing companies, department stores and malls, or discount stores, the company who own inventory, so they can operate a little bit cheaper than us, or the company really good in operation, so they can operate better than us. Those are our potential buyer. Or company who really want AI styling technology, like LVMH or Lululemon or Nike. They may not want to do rental, but they can use the AI styling element to improve their companies. So usually once you are VC back, they expect you to exit 5 to 7 years, and most people will end up sell the company. Small amount of them will go public, but that's usually the expectation. But of course, some people become just profitable business and continue running. They share the bonus to the investors, but most of people end up sell the company in a period of time.
I know that you have a lot of experience in starting up companies too, and working with startup companies. You started outside of you, but also involved in the construction of new businesses. Let's talk a little bit about team development or building a team when you're small and you don't have any money and you're just trying to figure stuff out, like being scrappy. How do you start from ground zero, or maybe from the place of, a young healthcare startup? How do you start to build the right people, the right teams? What kinds of things are we looking for in sort of, I guess, trying to ensure our success as a startup?
I always tell people, don't collect things, collect relationships. Work on building your network. If you want to be a great leader, the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody that's really good at what they do and ask them for advice or to help you work through how to define a problem or solve a problem. You don't have to pay people to do that if they're in your network. And when you're early on, even when you're a mature company, I always tell CEOs, develop a bigger network. Of being a CEO is a lonely place. You can't tell your employees everything you know. You can't tell your bankers everything you know. You can't tell your customers everything you know. It's a very lonely place because you live with all this knowledge about the inner workings of your companies and the frailty of your company and the things that don't work right. You know all of that, but you can't freely share it with the world around you. So knowing a group of people that have those same challenges and understanding how they navigate that is extremely valuable. Number one, develop that network of people around you that can be contributors to your understanding of what to do and when to do it and how to do it. I think the other thing too is that really understand what your purpose is as a company. You know, I was in a big company, I won't name the company, last week, and it's one of the recently very successful companies because of what's been going on in healthcare. And I was looking at all their, you know, we stand for this, and they have it all flashing up on the walls, right? And I sat in the lobby waiting for my host to come get me for the better part of a half an hour. And every person that entered the front door of that company, which had to be hundreds, had to walk past me. Do you know how many of them made eye contact with me?
I'm guessing very few.
0. Not one person. They had to swipe their card twice. They had to go through a metal detector. They had to do facial recognition, and they had to swipe their card a third time. And they were so consumed with that process. Not one person noticed me standing between 10 or 20 feet from me. What has happened that you walk past the person trying to make eye contact? I was trying to make eye contact, right? So here's a company that supposedly is very successful. I would contend that success is fleeting because the people don't even see what's going on around them. And I think that's something that we have to address. So, you know, there are so many things that are pretty simple that we could get right, Ryan. And I think it starts at home. I think it starts with, what are we developing our kids to become? What is it that we want for them? If I said to you, do you want your kids to be more successful than you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, what is success? How would you define what that is?
Yeah, well, and that's where it gets really tricky, right? Because like I might be able to say, oh, well, you know, I need them to make a ton of money so they could put me in a good home one day. And, you know, but what's success for them? I mean, I don't know. Maybe they don't want to do, you know, maybe money isn't a big thing. Maybe they want to be really philanthropic, or maybe they want to, you know, be volunteers, or, you know, whatever it is. And so, so for me to impose for me to impose what level of success is to them, you know, really isn't fair to them, for one, but it also, you know, goes back to, I guess, more my motivations, or what, you know, what are my things. And it, I guess, sort of deprives them of the ability to choose what is their success. What are the most common challenges or the questions that you're seeing from companies now as they're trying to shape strategy for the future?
For my clients that are more entry level, it's like, what channel do I focus on? Is usually what 2 or 3 things should I do? Because most people come in, they're trying to do 15 things and they do all of them poorly. For my more mature clients, right? So like, you know, north of $20 million a year, it's usually around penetration deeper into the clients that they already have. And that's less about which channel, that's more about data, right? Like, which data should I pay attention to? And, you know, CRMs are confused. They don't know what to do with SEO today. They don't know what to do with ads. They don't know. It's a difference between data at the high end, and at the bottom, it's which decision.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because I guess fundamentally it's kind of the same problem, right? And you know, it has to do maybe with scale and the amount of resources you can throw at a thing. You know, so maybe at the beginning it's, do I need to be on all 5 social channels, or can I just be on Instagram? You know, but maybe for somebody who's bigger and maybe a little more sophisticated in their marketing, you know, then, you know, ultimately it's the same question though. It's like, where do we, you know, what channels do we chase? You know, what data is valuable and what data isn't? And right now, you mentioned right now too, and I think you're right, there's this transition happening, and there's kind of this gold rush that I'm experiencing. And I don't know if you can back this up or if you've seen this too, but there was a period when the social networks started rising, and I was working in an agency at that time. And so there was like, you know, Twitter started getting popular and some of these other platforms started gaining popularity. And there was this like gold rush in the agencies where everybody was like running out and hiring some 14-year-old that knew how to run Twitter. They weren't marketers or strategic thinkers or any of that kind of thing. It was just, we need somebody that can run the platform. So they were making wild hiring decisions to bring in people who really didn't have any knowledge or any skill. They just knew how to run this tool. And so people just started throwing a lot of bad money at social media. And, you know, I think over time that's become more sophisticated. Obviously, there are people who make whole careers out of this now. But I kind of see that with AI too. And so I feel like we're maybe starting to get over the hump a little bit, but for a little while there, every piece of software is bolting on AI. And really all it was doing was speeding up how quickly you could enter data or, whatever. It was kind of not doing anything. It was just kind of like, but I need it to say AI on the platform. And so as we're starting to, hopefully, I think you'll start to see some of these big AI companies will start to emerge to the top, and they'll become the Twitters and the Instagrams and the whatever of the future. But there's going to be a lot of them that are going away. So like, as you're starting to help people, I guess the point I'm trying to make, I guess, is like, I feel like there's room for a lot of bad data because we can quickly make data. And so, but there's a lot of hallucination. There's a lot of flaws and problems in AI still. And so if people just take that and run with it, maybe it'd work out great, but it seems like there's a lot of room for error. So are you experiencing, just sort of because of the pace at which things are moving, there's this burgeoning technology, it's revolutionary, game-changing technology, but everybody's just kind of crowbarring it into what they're doing. Like, are you seeing that it's actually impactful? Like, are you seeing a real increase where you're going, man, AI is really where it's at? Or is it still, like you said before, kind of the fundamentals? Like, are you providing value? Is your messaging good? Maybe you can come up with 10x the creatives, but, the strategy behind it is still sort of done the old fashioned way.
I've never had this conversation, so some of these things might come out a little bit
it's
confused.
Okay, and we won't hold you to it either because everything's moving so fast. How could you?
Yes, but what I see going on is that something similar that I'm doing internally. So I may have used AI 6 months ago or a year at every stage of my strategy, all the way to execution to part of it. Not entirely, but I used it for ideation. I used it for execution, and then I used it for analyzing data. Today, I would say that the majority of how I'm using AI is after I've ideated myself or with a strategist on my team. And then I use AI for the development of the strategy into what the content is. And then a human comes back in, and then the human is used along with AI when it's interpretation of data. So if I was going to translate that into American football, it's like, I'm calling the play. We might use AI to determine, should I be going in the A slot or the B slot?
This is a perfect